What if the key to healing, true healing, was not found in pills or procedures, but in something as ancient and instinctual as your own breath? For thousands of years, sages, mystics, and monks across lost civilizations whispered of a sacred force, prana, ki, ruach, pneuma, the invisible life current that animates all living things. It wasn't just air, it was power, a subtle energy, carried on the breath, capable of aligning body, mind, and spirit. Today, in sterile hospital rooms and crowded pharmacies, we seek solutions outside ourselves, treatments that often address symptoms but not the root. Yet scroll back through time beyond the veil of forgotten temples and crumbling scrolls, and you'll find that our ancestors already knew what modern medicine is only beginning to remember. Breath is medicine, a kind of sacred technology for the human soul. But this knowledge was never meant for the masses. It was guarded in mystery schools, passed from master to disciple in shadows. Why? Because breath doesn't just heal, it awakens. And anything that awakens consciousness is powerful. In this video, we'll venture deep into these long-lost breathing techniques, rituals used by ancient yogis, Egyptian priests, Taoist immortals, and even Native American shamans. Techniques that have been buried under centuries of dogma and dismissed by modern science, until now. We'll explore how specific breathing patterns can dissolve anxiety, regenerate organs, and unlock altered states of awareness, and more importantly, how you can begin practicing them today. So inhale slowly. Feel that? That's not just oxygen, that's the door opening. Let's step through it, together. The breath of the ancients. Before breath became biology, it was divinity. In ancient India, the Vedas, some of the oldest sacred texts known to humanity, referred to breath as prana, the vital force that moves not only within us, but through the entire cosmos. Yogis believed that every inhalation was a moment of divine communion, a thread linking the soul to the source. Breath wasn't just a function, it was a sacred ritual. In Egypt, high priests of the mystery schools practiced controlled breathing before entering the inner chambers of the temples. They believed that the breath aligned one's soul with the ka, the spiritual double of the body, preparing them for contact with the divine and even the afterlife. Their hieroglyphs speak of sekam, a spiritual power awakened through rhythmic inhalation and exhalation. The Taoists of ancient China taught that the breath mirrored the balance of yin and yang. Their internal alchemy began with breath control, not for strength or speed, but to nourish the elixir field in the belly, the dantian. They believed proper breathing could slow aging, reverse illness, and even make the body immortal. Among Native American tribes, breath was used in vision quests. The Lakota, for instance, would use deep, intentional breathing to enter trance-like states, opening portals to spirit realms and unlocking messages from ancestors. And yet, this wisdom, though widespread across time and continents, was never handed out freely. It was reserved for initiates, encoded in metaphor, buried in chants and symbols. Because to master the breath was to master one's energy, one's reality. And that kind of power has always been feared. What modern science now calls the autonomic nervous system, ancient mystics called the spirit gate. And breathing was the key. But how exactly do these techniques work? And what can they awaken in you? Let's begin the journey into practice. Breath as sacred technology. Let us make one thing clear. We are not talking about basic deep breathing or casual meditation. What you're about to learn are ancient, time-tested techniques, once practiced in secret temples and mountain caves, rituals that go far beyond relaxation. These are breath patterns designed to cleanse organs, recalibrate your nervous system, and unlock altered states of consciousness. Let's begin with the foundational practice, the box breath, also known as square breathing, used by Himalayan yogis and echoed in Samurai Zen meditation. 1. Box breathing. 4 year 4, 4 year 4. The gateway. Inhale for 4 seconds. Hold your breath for 4 seconds. Exhale for 4 seconds. Hold the breath again for 4 seconds. Repeat for 5 to 10 minutes. What it does. This technique balances your autonomic nervous system, the fight or flight and rest and digest forces. In the yogic system, it aligns your energy centers or chakras, gently moving prana through blocked pathways, nadis. In modern terms, it reduces cortisol, lowers blood pressure, and increases focus. Esoteric insight. The four sides of the breath reflect the four elements: air, fire, water, and earth. When practiced with intention, this breathing pattern is a silent invocation to balance the elemental body. 2. Shamanic fire breath. The inner purge. Used by indigenous tribes in the Amazon and echoed in ancient Tibetan Tummo practice, this breath is about heat and release. Sit upright or lie down. Inhale powerfully through the nose. Exhale sharply through the mouth. Do this rapidly for 30-40 breaths. On the final exhale, empty your lungs and hold. When you need to breathe in, do so deeply and hold again for 10-15 seconds. What it does. This method floods your body with oxygen and stimulates your pineal gland, the seat of the soul. Practitioners often report vivid visuals, emotional releases, and even contact with non-ordinary realms. Modern parallel. This is similar to the now famous Wim Hof method, but it predates him by centuries. It's the ancient way of inducing controlled stress for deep purification. 3. Anulam Vilam, the breath of polarity. Translated as alternate nostril breathing, this technique from ancient India isn't just for calming. It's a literal reset for your brain and energy body. Use your right thumb to close your right nostril. Inhale slowly through the left nostril. Close the left nostril with your ring finger. Exhale through the right nostril. Inhale through the right nostril. Switch nostrils again and repeat. Continue for 5 to 10 minutes. What it does. Anulam Vilam balances the Ida and Pingala nadis, your moon and sun energies. It syncs the hemispheres of the brain, improving clarity, memory, and emotional regulation. Hidden wisdom. The ancient yogis taught that this breath harmonizes the masculine and feminine within you. It's not just a tool, it's a spiritual dance of polarity. 4. Samavritti, breath of the sages. Used by Vedic priests and adopted later by Buddhist monks, this breath is about entering the timeless present. Inhale for 5 seconds. Exhale for 5 seconds. Keep the breath smooth and continuous. Practice for 10-20 minutes what it does. This technique induces alpha brainwaves, the gateway to intuition and deep calm. Over time, it trains the body to move from reaction to awareness, essential for mystical insight. Esoteric layer. In many traditions, this breathing rhythm was used while chanting mantras. It aligns the practitioner with the frequency of the cosmos, vibrating not just within but outward into the field of reality. 5. The breath of surrender, a forgotten Christian practice. In Eastern Orthodox Christianity and Hesychasm, an ancient mystical tradition, monks would repeat the Jesus prayer in rhythm with their breath. Inhale silently, Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God. Exhale silently, have mercy on me, a sinner. Continue gently for 15 minutes. Why it matters. Though often dismissed as purely religious, this practice was actually a breath-based mantra meditation. When done with reverence, it lowers ego activity and induces spiritual humility, what mystics called kenosis, or emptying of the self. Modern understanding. Whether you're religious or not, rhythmic breath plus meaningful mantra, emotional regulation, deep presence, and heart coherence. Common mistakes to avoid breathing shallowly. Most people breathe only into the chest. True ancient breathing fills the belly first, then the ribs, then the chest, like a wave. Forcing the rhythm. These techniques should never feel strained. Ancient masters taught that breath is like a river. It flows best when you stop resisting. Skipping integration. After any deep breath work, sit in stillness for 2 to 5 minutes. This is when the healing integrates and insight arises. How to begin your practice. Start with 5 minutes daily of any one technique, preferably in the morning or just before sleep. Create a sacred space. Light a candle, sit in silence, set an intention. Track your inner state, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually. You're not just changing how you breathe, you're changing your internal frequency. Over time, you may notice decreased need for external stimulation or medication, heightened creativity, intuition, and clarity. A strange but beautiful sense that your body is not just a body, but a temple of breath. The forgotten elixir within. So often, we search outward, for pills, for cures, for answers, forgetting that the most ancient medicine has always lived within us, riding silently on every breath we take. From the high peaks of the Himalayas to the dim-lit chambers of Egyptian temples, from the Taoist monks cultivating longevity in mountain caves to Native American shamans entering the spirit realm through rhythmic breath, this wisdom has echoed across time. Your breath is not just survival, it is transformation. What modern science now confirms: oxygenation, vagus nerve stimulation, brainwave modulation, ancient cultures knew intuitively. But they went further. They understood breath as sacred architecture, as the sculptor of consciousness. They didn't just breathe, they communed. These practices weren't just to relax. They were to remember, to awaken the dormant intelligence within the body, to cleanse karmic patterns, to open portals to higher realms of awareness. And in a world that grows noisier by the day, this forgotten rhythm offers something radical. Silence. Not the absence of sound, but the presence of self. So I ask you this: what if your healing isn't what waiting in a bottle or a diagnosis, but in the space between two breaths? Start there. Sit with your breath as you would with a sacred text. Practice not like a chore, but like a prayer. Begin not with the lungs, but with reverence. Because when you reclaim your breath, you reclaim your power, your peace, and maybe, just maybe, your purpose. If this video stirred something ancient within you, share it with someone who's ready to remember. Leave a comment with your experience or your questions and subscribe, because this is only the beginning. The ancient ways are calling, and your breath is the answer.